Hey YouTube, Mr. Hub 996, and what I have for you today is a takedown and cleaning of the Hatson bullpup shotgun, the Escort. I had at least 2 requests for full videos on care and cleaning and disassembly. So I figured that's a really good place to start since people are asking for it, and from what I've heard from the people requesting this and from my own searches when I first got this shotgun, there's not a lot of information out there. There's shooting videos, but there's no one actually breaking the shotgun down and getting into the internals, how it works, and care and cleaning. So I'm going to attempt to do that today with this video. To start with, the very first thing, if you're actually breaking this thing down for cleaning, if you're still running the carry handle / sights, they'll need to be removed. At the very minimum, have to remove the back screw near the rear sight. But the way it's on the gun, that puts this section directly over the metal portion of the rear receiver. And as I pull the shrouding thing off, that'll become more clear. So the first thing I'm going to do, because it has to be done, I'm going to raise the cheek cone. The cheek cone is one of those parts on this gun, and I've made comments in my other videos that these are made in Turkey. I think they're copying what they see other people doing in other places and what they think is cool. A shotgun really doesn't have a lot of need for an adjustable cheek cone, just because you're not doing precision work with it. An adjustable cheek cone helps locate your face in direction with your sights to give the optimum repeatable sight picture every single time. With a shotgun, that's not as necessary. I don't, especially for a tactical shotgun, I don't see the need for it, but it's on the gun. I run it with the cheek comb all the way down the lowest position. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to raise it up, and I suppose, I haven't done it yet, but I suppose I could just remove the cheek comb, and that may end up being something I do later. Matter of fact, for this video, let's go ahead and do it. Give you a better idea of how this thing is put together and made. Standard bolt and a plastic nut with it. Well, it's a metal internal nut with a plastic grip to the outside of it. Alright. And I think we should leave that off from here out because it's not a needed part on the gun. It's kind of obtrusive in the way. Stuff like this, I'm going to stick on, I'm going to keep it. It'll be someplace, it just won't be on the gun. So there you have it. Preserved for all of posterity, me removing the adjustable cheek rest. Okay. If you're running the carry handle with the sight, integrated sights, right here there's a seam. From here forward, the rail is polymer. Here backward, you have a very small section, maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches of metal rail that's integrated into the rear receiver. What I do, I try to run my red dot as far forward as I can, but because this is a plastic rail, I was afraid that 0 would not be repeatable. So it's a shotgun, I don't need to be perfectly zeroed, so what I've done, I run my red dot far enough back that I engage the metal rail with the last 1/4 inch or so of the riser. So what that does is, even though the riser and red dot are on the front handguard, the plastic, it engages metal to try and give it a repeatable 0. Every time you slide this front guard on, you can have some wiggle. The rear receiver will not wiggle. So if those tabs go over and lock into the rear receiver, you get as close to a repeatable 0 with red dot as you can. So that's why I run the red dot where it's at. And when I take the top cover off, then you'll see better how I do that, how I achieve it, and my thoughts on why I do it. Okay, the next step, the barrel shroud. barrel shroud here that holds the upper receiver in place. The barrel is threaded, the barrel shroud threads over it. At the very bottom of the barrel thread is a detent ball capture system. You hear it ratchet when I undo this top. Hear that? Okay, let's dig into that a little deeper. Okay, so as I was saying, the barrel's threaded. Right there are the threads inside of here on the barrel shroud. The internals are threaded. So when you're screwing it down, the blunt end here is putting pressure on the handguard, holding it in place. Now, what they've done, see knurling here on the top of the barrel shroud. If I take and turn the gun up and tap, that falls out. All this is a spacer to allow this to engage and put pressure on the upper and give it a bigger footprint. So just a little larger in diameter. I believe it's aluminum. And what they've done, they've machined in a ball detent right here. And that ball detent engages knurling on the barrel shroud. So that's the sound you're hearing as you twist, is that spring-loaded ball being pushed up and down to the ridges of the barrel shroud. It's very simple, slides over the barrel loosely, and they drilled and tapped and used a set screw. If you look at the end of the shotgun, the set screw fills this void right here. So that's what keeps the ball detent in place and keeps it from rotating. It's just that set screw. Okay, so barrel shroud, ball detent retainer. Now then, you've got to pull the charging handle. Something else I'll try and show you real quick. The charging handle is reversible from side to side. I'm a right-handed shooter, so even though I'm left-handed in normal life, let me rephrase that. I eat and I write left-handed. Everything else I do right-handed. Throw, pitch, shoot. It's weird, I can't describe it. What I've found is when I'm shooting, I'm right-eye dominant. So I think I've naturally progressed doing certain things from my right side of my body for my dominant eye. Things that don't require a dominant eye, I do left-handed. It's weird. We'll pull the charging handle. Okay. And I've went over this in another video. You have a V-shaped slot on both sides of the charging handle. The gun has that charging handle slot on both sides, so I can take my charging handle, put it back in, and it's hard. Not want to cooperate. Okay, hold on a second. Let me get a tool. Gonna learn today. For certain parts, I highly recommend a rubber mallet. You know, everybody has a Harbor Freight close to them. These are easy to get hold of. Quick tap, charging handles in. Okay, mine is a very, very tight fit, not a problem for me. Okay, now suppose, because I'm right-handed, this isn't that big of a deal, but I don't like taking my hand off of the main controls. So my left hand is a better option to keep full control of the firearm while I'm using it. So I don't like using the charging handle on this side of the shotgun. I prefer it on the left side. It's just a personal preference. I mean, you've shot AKs or anything like that, then you're familiar with this setup. But my personal preference is to move this to the left-hand side of the gun. Okay, moving along. The shroud just lifts off. Okay, so we're going to give a pull. You can see my red dot comes off with it. Dig into this a little bit now. So you can see my red dot and riser hanging off the back of the shroud. If I turn the gun up, show it to everybody. On the top of the receiver right here, molded in, there's two pieces of rail and a shelf almost for a third. This little shelf corresponds with a shelf in the upper handguard. The handguard slides over and engages that. For extra engagement to the sight, I've set my red dot riser just off of the handrail, so there's no, I'm not engaging the actual picnic slides with the scope mount, the bar, but when I put it back together, the red dot will slide over and engage the penny rail. So I have a firm, hard metallic mount to help orient my red dot when I slide all this back together. And I've struggled with this at times because it's a tight fit, but that is what it's put back together. So now, we'll tap, and handguard is off. Okay, the barrel bolts the action. The barrel in action bolts the upper receiver. The barrel nut is here. It's a gas operated system. I'll get into that in another video, and I'll try and show you real quick. Charging handle back in. Hear how solid that retention is. Okay, if I push back on the handle, it moves here. Lock it open. It's like basically a 12 gauge pump shotgun. You're pushing back the action bars here, which attach to the bolt. This is basically the barrel with the gas tube. So the phosphating on the barrel ends just about here. There's gas rings just like on, say, an AR-15. I'll this up a little bit, make it more visible. So there's a gas ring right here. I'm actually trying to physically turn it. I don't know if it's going to show up very well or not, but that's a gas ring for sealing. It's basically just a little spring-loaded ring. And then around the barrel, you have gas ports drilled at an angle. There's 1, 2, 3, and the fourth one on bottom, I assume. So what that does, this here is your piston. Rides on the barrel. I keep it somewhat oiled. As the shotgun shell fires and pushes out, the gases behind the wad, they're pushing, come out these jet vents and push your piston here back. The piston is in contact with the face here of your, for lack of a better term, we'll call it the face of the bolt. It's not the face of the bolt, it's the receiver front has connecting bars here that help connect them together. So when you push against this, you're pushing the bolt face back. So the gases push this slide, pushes everything back. The gases come to a stop. They stop moving. The spring here pushes it all back forward. I'll release this to show you. So it's a little loud, but when I hit the release latch, it'll all go forward. So basically, it's very, very simple. Spent gases go out, push back, and the spring returns it forward as it comes to a stop. Okay, now what I do as far as cleaning, I will clean everything up, and I'll put a light coating of oil on here just so that the piston slides free. And right now it's starting to get a little dry. I'm going to have to add something to it. But that's literally how the action works. Now we need to separate the upper and barrel from the lower. There's two push pins, like on any AR-15. Here, one here. Put over, pull up, pull up. The lower receiver is all polymer, upper is metal. So to separate, now this may pressure off that. Grab the barrel, pull up slightly, give it a tug, and it separates. Very easy. So this is the upper receiver, the barrel, the bolt. Let's see if I can operate it real quick here against the table. This is the bolt here. So this works just like any other semi-automatic rifle or pistol. Yeah, gases push the bolt back. The operating system is a gas system. Once the system bottoms out, it stops moving. Inertia stops the movement. Now the recoil spring slides the bolt back forward. The face of the bolt hooks the edge of a shotgun shell, pushing it up out of the magazine. Right here, you got the feed ramps. Guides that shell up into the barrel, closes and locks up. Okay. So that's basically the gun, how it works. What I'll usually do is I'll wipe everything down, give a good cleaning, maybe use some Q-tips or around the jet ports if I have to. Everything just a good cleaning and then lubrication. See, that's literally the gas ring here holding the piston. So at this point, if I wanted to lubricate and get everything ready for reassembly, take a rag, wipe everything down. If you have any CLP, now's the time to spray it. If you're using a CLP, I usually don't use a CLP. I'll just use a light oil. Wipe off any carbon residue, powder residue. Do a simple cleaning. Then keep the yacht action turned up so it's facing up. So I have some spray oil here. A lot of times I end up using a food grade lubricating oil because of the profession that I'm in. I use a lot of food grade lubricants, and so everything transfers over to what I do here. I use the best lubricants that I have access to. They usually end up being food grade. So this is a Bel-Ray non-toxic waterproof chain lube. This stuff's sticky, almost in between oil and a grease. The viscosity will change slightly, but it sprays on as a liquid, and then it turns like a gel. So it really clings and stays in place. So I'll spray the guides, I'll work the bolt a few times. Turn it. I'm doing this for the camera. Spray the other side. Work it a few times. Okay, so now I've got oil in all of the moving parts of the bolt. I'll quick clean up the excess. Now then, I'll put the bolt down and a few shots on the barrel itself where the piston slides, and I'll move it, spin it, so I'm getting a good coating of the oil all over the portion of the barrel that it travels on. So a high polished silver. The rest of it's phosphated, so there's no mistaking where that slide works. As you can see, it's like butter now. Okay, so now I've wiped it down, cleaned it. At this point, if you want to, you can run a patch down the bore, clean the bore out. I'm not going to go that far today because I just don't see the need. Okay. We'll reassemble now. These plastic notches here built into the lower receiver. Those two notches coincide with notches on the upper here, along with your pins, or your pin locations. So you put this back together. We'll slide this in over the hammer slightly, drop it in place, push the pin in, push the pin in. Now the barrel and upper have been remated to the lower receiver. This time of any, do a quick wipe down of any excess oil you may have gotten around. Okay, now then, upper and sight. One quick step, charging handle. And now then, upper back on, and my red dot sight. There we go. Okay. We'll look for the ball detent little nub sticking out here. Make sure that the set screw is facing down. It's also worth noting that when I got my shotgun, this set screw was loose. It was held in, but you can take your fingers and turn it. I got some blue Loctite, took the screw out, cleaned everything with a degreaser, put a couple drops of blue Loctite in the hole and on the threads of the set screw, put it back together and reassembled the gun and let the Loctite sit up and dry. So that now I don't have to worry about the pin rattling or falling out. All it does literally is set the spacing and how that slides in over the barrel. I'd imagine you could probably pinch it on the barrel, but it's not needed because things compressed and held together by the threads inside the barrel shroud. So now then, we're ready for the barrel shroud. Double check something here. Okay, nub is facing out, the ball detent, set screws in its slot, barrel shroud, and now threading, and you'll kind of right there. That's the knurls hitting that ball detent and vibrating the whole gun. Turning is tighter, so it's contact. Give a few more turns so it's tight. Okay. Now then, charging handle. tap. Function test. Okay, so that was a complete disassembly of the Hatson bullpup 12 gauge, the Escort, and a quick run through on basic cleaning. I will add that if at all possible, you don't want to add a lot of oil to the trigger or the trigger bar assembly, the sears, because that attracts dust, spent gun residue, gunpowder, all that can stick and gum up your trigger. So if you oil that, then every time you disassemble the gun, which means every time you shoot the gun, you would disassemble, completely clean, wipe everything down, re-lubricate. It's not something I would generally want you to do a lot. I just run mine dry. It's kind of the same thing you do with an AR-15. Don't lubricate the trigger or the trigger bar assembly or the sears and hammer. I leave them dry. It's personal preference, just is what I do. That keeps any of your oils from hardening or turning to a gum and seizing up your trigger assembly. If you're spraying it constantly, keeping it well lubed and well cleaned all the time, great. If the gun sits up for any length of time, some of these oils can turn to a grease or a shellac. Slows down movement and travel and can start gumming up the action and slowing down how the gun works. Start giving you fails to load, fails to feed. Just a lot of problems with being sluggish. If you start to notice that, usually the quickest fix is do a quick breakdown, spray it with your lube, reassemble, and work the action several times. Usually that's enough to break those oils and stuff down. But if this is something you're depending on for home defense or survival, where your life is literally dependent on this working, then you might want to avoid that. Just don't get anything on the critical parts that can be gummed up. And that's a personal choice. I can't tell you how to do that. That's something you have to come to your own decision on. A lot of people would argue that a $400 shotgun like this, they would not trust their life on. For me, this is a toy. It's a very capable toy. It's fun. I like it. It's a toy. So, remove the cheek piece. Feels a little different and takes some getting used to, I'm sure, but it's not needed. If you have any questions or comments, I usually stick around for a few days after a video goes up. Any comments that I get, I'm constantly reviewing on the small channel. I don't have a lot of videos. I don't have a lot of subscribers, which means the subscribers and viewers that I do have, when they leave comments, I'm able to usually answer back right away. It's not like my life is so busy I can't keep track of my YouTube channel. I've got maybe 100 videos, a few hundred subscribers. It's very easy at this point for me to keep track of the channel and respond to all comments at any time. So I thank you for watching. Mr. Hub 996, and this has been tear down and cleaning of the Hatson Escort bullpup shotgun. Thank you.